Good morning and welcome back. You're watching Newsx. I am Rishabh Gulati. Ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, Russian President Vladimir Putin has now arrived in Tianjin in China for the SCO Summit. You can see the Russian flag that has been raised for the visit, along with the flags of all the nations that are attending, including India, a lot of the Central Asian republics, the Maldives, Nepal, Egypt. They've all come, as has the United Nations Secretary General. There will be a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, and we are expecting Vladimir Putin to be the chief guest at a grand military parade that is being organized on the 3rd of September in Beijing, which is just a couple of hours from where this summit is taking place in Tiananmen Square. The Indian Prime Minister is not expected to attend that meeting. Now, if you're watching this telecast from India, then there's a lot of curiosity. Primarily, if you are a person who is involved in business dealings with China, you'd probably like to know, are the direct flights between India and China at least going to resume? You would like to know whether there is going to be increased investment coming in from the Chinese into Indian entities. You'll probably want to know if there are going to be import-export opportunities coming out of this conversation, which is going to happen between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi for the first time in nearly 8 years. If you are, however, deeply concerned about India-US relations, you're wondering what the impact of this has on the long-term trajectory heading in that direction. If you're worried about what's happening in the globe, well, it seems that we are in a moment of flux. It's a moment of confusion for the world, which is now trying to figure out how it absorbs this barrage of tariff seeking that is taking place. At the same time, the inconsistencies as also remain, because the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, is sitting there as well. And if the point of departure with the Trump administration was not just over tariffs, but was also over the fact that he was having dinner with the Pakistani army chief, well, the complexities on that, ladies and gentlemen, are as difficult to imagine as you can possibly assess. But it is going to be a meeting which is scheduled in a couple of hours from now. During the later part of the evening, India time, 4:30 p.m. local time, around about 6:37 India time, is the main summit meeting that is taking place. Other bilaterals are expected, including between Prime Minister Modi and Vladimir Putin. We have information to suggest that President Putin will also be visiting India in a couple of months' time, probably later this year. Other bilateral meetings are also expected, potentially between Prime Minister Modi and the current head of government in Myanmar, who took over just about 3 or 4 years ago in 2021. So what exactly happens? What should happen? How do we understand it? How do we underplay it, overplay it? Well, let's open that up to conversation. Ambassador Prabhu Dayal joining us this morning. Alok Mehta, the editorial director of India News. Akash Jindal is with us. Wiping Kin, who's an economist and author, joining us on the broadcast, as is Charles Thompson, who's a journalist from Australia. Let me first go across to my colleague and senior executive editor Megha Sharma, who is in Tianjin as we speak. She's been there for a few days, and the shots that you're watching, of course, are from the venue where the summit is being organized. Megha, good morning to you, and what's on the agenda for today?
Good morning to you, Rishabh, and to all our viewers. On the agenda is we are now expecting, the big ticket arrival of one of the key members of the SCO Summit, that is Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. He is expected to arrive early morning today. It's already around 9:30 a.m. Beijing time, and he's expected to be over here. And after that, there is going to be a flurry of meetings, as you said, that are going to take place on the sidelines of the SCO Summit. President Putin, in fact, is going to be meeting a number of leaders from other parts of the world who are also congregating over here. Key amongst them are going to be Masoud Pezeshkian, who's the president of Iran. He's going to be holding a meeting with the Turkish President Erdogan. He's going to be holding meetings with the president of Cambodia. There are, of course, going to be a bilateral that he holds with Xi Jinping. There is going to be, of course, a bilateral that happens with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So a slew of bilaterals are going to be part of the agenda for the next few hours till the time there is the official reception that is hosted by Xi Jinping, that is going to welcome all the members, the more than 20 countries, heads of the states that are arriving, participating at this SCO Summit. That happens at 7 p.m. Local time, Beijing time, and before that at 6:30 p.m. local time, the Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, will also hold a press conference to give us more details of what is anticipated.
What's on the schedule for Prime Minister Modi?
So the first meeting that the Prime Minister is going to hold is going to be straight at 12 p.m. Beijing time, which is going to be about 9:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, and that is going to be the bilateral with President Xi Jinping, and that bilateral is likely to last about 45 minutes to 1 hour. And after that, there is an entire window of about 2 hours that has been kept open from the Prime Minister's office to hold several other bilaterals. Key amongst them, again, it's going to, of course, coincide with President Putin arriving over here in Tianjin, and after that, hopefully, that is going to be the second bilateral that the Prime Minister holds with President Putin. And after that, like you said, as per sources, we're also getting to know that the Myanmarese acting president will also be holding talks on the sidelines with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Likelihood of other leaders, whether it is, I don't know, from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, they all are over here, the heads of states, and there could be a likelihood that bilaterals happen with the Prime Minister, with all these other heads of the states.
So, of course, President Xi of China is the host. Belarus, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Turkmenistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Egypt, Myanmar, the Maldives, Nepal, Turkey, Indonesia, Laos, and Malaysia and Vietnam are all in attendance. This is not just the SCO Summit, this is SCO Plus. It will be very difficult for us to process what the deliverables from the SCO Summit per se will be. The SCO Summit has its place in the multilateral fora of the world, but it is, of course, itself full of many inconsistencies, as many multilateral fora are. There is one thing in common here, that there are a whole host of countries, some of them in attendance, that have a lot of difficulties with each other. There are many not in attendance, but there is one thing they all agree on, is that we have to figure out, amidst all our differences, the world now as defined by President Trump, which is resetting all the frameworks, like it or not, that have been in existence. Many would argue to the benefit and control of the United States for the better part of the latter half of the last century. Megha, quick question before I let you go. So, the Prime Minister is expected now to head back to India sometime tomorrow. You've been telling us he will not be staying for the parade in Beijing on the 3rd.
Yes, that's right. He will be emplaning from Tianjin and will be headed to New Delhi. The flight is at 1:40 p.m. local time on 1st of September, which is tomorrow. And of course, there are preparations that are in full swing in Beijing for the victory parade that pays tribute to the surrender of the Japanese during the World War II, the end of the World War II, 80th anniversary that is being celebrated in Beijing in just a couple of days from now. There are going to be top leaders and allies of President Xi Jinping that will be participating alongside him.
Okay, but Megha, I have to ask you now, you've been interacting with people there from all over the world. Most of the Western media is missing from this summit in China. One can argue for reasons best known to themselves. Some of them are there, but what's the buzz? What is actually happening here? Because the Prime Minister Modi and President Xi will be meeting for the first time in several years. In fact, in the better part of a decade. So, what's the buzz over there? Why is everybody there? What are they hoping to achieve?
Well, the media over here, especially when you take a look at Eastern Europe, and with Middle East, there are also a lot of media organizations that are covering this event from the Chinese side as well, Indian side as well. But yes, you're right that there are hardly any Western media that is reporting this news. Perhaps a couple of these news agencies and news wires that are spread all across the globe. But besides that, there has not been any indication, any mention of this big ticket SCO summit that is taking place in China in any of these Western media news outlets, on their websites, on their portals, on their television news shows. So which is kind of surprising. But at the same time, when the buzz over here, when we talk to people on the ground, is about this alternative regional grouping that has been set up, and it has been only growing leaps and bounds over the years. It started off as a 4-member
Yes.
SCO grouping back in
Okay,
2001.
I want to ask you specifically, do we have an update on the North Korean president, Kim Jong-un? Is he expected to be arriving as well?
Yes, absolutely. Kim Jong-un will be arriving. He will be participating at the Victory Parade in Beijing, which is happening on 3rd of September, and he is scheduled to arrive tomorrow in Beijing to be participant in this big ticket event.
Okay, so as we were mentioning, Megha, thank you very much. We'll touch base with you in about an hour's time as things transpire there, and yes, in about 2.5 hours time, we're expecting